All right, welcome everyone. Joya Goodrum here with the McMinnville Area Chamber of Commerce. We are going to be listening to Elsie with the SBA Portland office. She's going to be telling us about how to start your own business and all kinds of great information, I think, that will be very helpful to you. We are recording this, so we'll be having it posted on our chamber website. And if you have any questions, please put them in the chat. Please keep yourself muted so that Elsie doesn't get disturbed, and we will monitor the chat for questions. Elsie, I'm turning it over to you.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Joya, for having me. It's great to be back with you all. I know that it's been a few months since we've been able to get together and do a presentation, so I'm excited to be back here. Let me get my screen up here. Beginning. Okay. So as Joy said, my name is Elsie. My full name is Ashley Lambeth Christian. I am an outreach and marketing specialist for SBA Portland District Office. So what that means is I do a lot of presentations, official presentations for the SBA, as well as building relationships. I oversee a lot of our different programs. So I'm the program manager for our Thrive program, or Thrive, our emerging leaders for existing and growing businesses. I am the Veteran Business Development Officer for Oregon as well as Southern Washington. I also oversee all of our Community Navigator Pilot Program awardees. So lots of different stuff kind of going on. Outside of the SBA, I also teach. So I teach for MiraCosta College within their business department. I teach entrepreneurship, business plan development, feasibility studies, business law, as well as hospitality law. And then I also am a serial entrepreneur. So I've owned lots of different types of businesses. I currently own a consulting business as well as an online retailer called M's House. So just a little bit of background on me. I would love to get to know you all just a little bit too before we jump into the how to start your business. So I would love to know kind of who's in the room. I know some of you are business owners, some of you may be other agency members or part of the chamber. So just let me know who you are and where you're from. I would love to kind of network a little bit of what kind of, if you are considering starting a business, kind of what your idea is. If you already have a business, then feel free to share that. If you're comfortable, you can include contact information, website information, so that, promote yourself, right? Shameless promotion. So feel free to do that in the chat box just so I know who is here today. As far as the agenda goes, we're going to talk about who is the SBA and what exactly is it that we do. I know a lot of people will either be like, I've never heard of the SBA, or I've heard of you, but I really don't understand what it is that you all do. So we'll cover a little bit of basics on that. We're going to talk about what's going on within small businesses and all the incredible things that small business owners are achieving currently. And then we'll talk about some business basics and how to start your business. I'll tell you about some of our resource partners and other business resource partners that are available. Oh, very cool. Holly, very cool. All right, so to get started here, I need to move my chat box out of the way. So the SBA itself is a federal agency. So we're the only federal agency that is dedicated specifically to small businesses. And our four primary areas of focus are going to be around education, capital, government contracting, and advocacy. So what exactly does that mean? When we're talking about education pieces, the SBA funds lots of different what we call resource partners. And so the SBA funds small business development centers, women's business centers, veteran business outreach centers, as well as SCORE. And these resource partners can provide direct one-on-one counseling and training or free and low-cost training. We also have lots of different educational programs. So when I was introducing myself and I mentioned, I'm the project manager for Thrive, that's a 6-month long free program for business owners that are expanding. So these are, they have to have been in business for at least 4 years and have revenues of over 250,000, and they're trying to get to that next level of expansion. So we have programs like that. We also have the Community Navigator pilot programs, which are going to be focused on communities that may be really impoverished or are having a difficulty with economic development. And so we have those getting into those communities to help them kind of build up and expand. So lots of different educational programs. And I'll talk more about some of the other free educational resources that we have as we kind of go through as well. The SBA also has different forms of capital that can be provided to small business owners. And so this includes things like our loan guarantee programs, which were designed for businesses or owners that may not be able to qualify for traditional lending. And so they may be seen as risky. And so the SBA has stepped in and said, hey, you know what, depending on the type of loan, we'll back up to 90% of the loan for the bank. And so if that person does default, it's no less risky for the bank. So people who wouldn't have been able to receive funding are now able to receive that funding. There are also different types of grants that the SBA will distribute to other federal agencies or state organizations or nonprofits to be able to distribute to small business owners, like the State Trade Expansion Program, or the SBIR STTR, which is in technology. So there's lots of different forms of capital that comes out of the SBA as well. The next set is going to be government contracting. So the SBA is charged with kind of overseeing and putting out guidelines for all of the government contracts. So we will put out guidelines of, hey, all of the other federal agencies, we want to see that contracting dollars are going to small businesses. So we'll put in, your goal is to reach 23% of all those dollars are reaching small businesses. So we kind of oversee that. And then the last thing that the SBA is focusing on is advocacy. So when new legislation is put in place, the SBA will testify on behalf of small businesses on how that legislation might impact them, or may discuss topics with Congress of what small businesses may need in order for them to continue to thrive. So these are kind of the 4 areas of focus for the SBA. Excuse me. I should also probably mention that you're going to hear my co-host in the background. That would be Dr. Indiana Bones, our Dalmatian. So he's very vocal, and so you're going to hear him making a fuss right now. Yes, I said your name. Go lay down. So to share some really awesome statistics surrounding small business ownership. So currently, small businesses represent 44% of economic activity within the United States. So this is huge. They are also responsible for 2/3 of net new jobs that are created within the United States. We're also seeing certain sectors of small business ownership that are really skyrocketing. And so currently, nearly 20% of all new small businesses are majority owned by women. And 18% of small businesses are minority owned, with the largest growth being in Black women ownership. So that's the fastest growing segment of small business ownership. So from here, let's talk about some of those resources that I was discussing earlier. So the SBA provides funding to our research partners that I mentioned earlier. So that's SCORE, Small Business Development Centers, Women's Business Centers. They help everyone, by the way. I know the word women is in there, but they were willing to help everyone. Veteran Business Outreach Centers, which is specific to veterans, active duty military guard, reserve, as well as military connected family members. Our community navigators, which are going to be specific to certain communities currently. Our community navigator is Rockwood CDC, which is located in Rockwood or Gresham area. And then also our micro lenders can also be a really great resource for one-on-one kind of counseling. So in order to receive a microloan, you have to go through a specific program, kind of business startup program, to make sure that you are ready and strong, and that you have a successful business start. So there are over 1,400 resource partners across the country. And in fact, I think that's growing to over 1,800 across the country. So kind of no matter where you're at, there's going to be one that's close by. As an example, the SBDCs are located at community colleges. So we have over 20 of them here in Oregon. So lots of different ways that you can reach out to them, and they can help you with things like I said, the one-on-one counseling. You can ask them very specific things about your business. They can help you with business planning, writing your business plan, pitches. They can help you to get access to capital and help you with hiring employees. So where can you go for that? So lots of different things that they're able to help and guide you with. There's also a lot of free resources on the SBA.gov website. So if you head over to the Learning Center, which I'll make sure that Joya and her team get a copy of this presentation, but if you head over to the Learning Center, there's a whole bunch of on-demand videos and templates and different learning topics that you can work through, and it's, again, all free. If you feel like you want to learn more about loans, if you're interested in that kind of thing, you can click on Lender Match. You can put information in about, the loans that you're seeking, and then lenders will contact you directly. And these are SBA lenders. So they work directly with the SBA and have some of our programs. And then also, I just wanted this available to you. So some of the things that I'm going to talk about are going to be business plans and financials. And so I've included some of SCORE's templates. This business plan template that's here is really comprehensive and wonderful for business startups. They also have a really great financials template. This one happens to be an Excel template that you can work through. There's all sorts of different SCORE templates. If you click on that other link, you can explore if you need specific templates for different things that you're working on as a business owner. And then I also included the SBA business plan template as well. So let's kind of jump into, now that we know more about SBA, before I jump into, business startup, does anyone have any questions about the SBA or about our resource partners before I continue on?
We used to have a connection with SCORE, Elsie, and they sort of disappeared. And how do we connect with them again? Because Bill used to come and see us, on a regular basis, and connect him with people. And it seems like it dried up in our area because Bill was, basically retired and moved away. So how do we connect with SCORE? Or perhaps you and I can talk about that on a separate,
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll see who's the closest one to you all. I know that SCORE especially took a really big downturn during COVID. They lost a lot of people, and they're starting to build back up again. So I think everybody's starting to kind of like we were talking about, we're trying to get into spring. We're trying to get into spring after COVID and kind of get out there and start to bloom again. And so yeah, we can definitely see who we can connect you with and see if we might be able to get somebody out there to work directly with the chamber.
Right. That'd be wonderful. Thank you.
Absolutely. Any other questions about any of that before I go forward? Okay, perfect. So it looks like we've got a couple people who work for banks. Excellent. Cutting edge metal, CNC shop. Very okay, perfect. So just wanted to see who all we have in the room. So one of the things that I want to throw out there immediately is to never fall in love with a business until you have vetted it. And this one's really hard to do, but you want to make sure that you are looking into what will make this business, or can this business be feasible, achievable? Is it sustainable? Will it be successful and profitable? And so we want to make sure that we're going through the different steps. So I like to go through the startup checklist. First, we want to start with research, right? We want to make sure that people actually want this product, that they need this product, that they have the money to purchase this product. And so you want to start kind of researching the demand. You want to start researching what is it going to take to start this business. This includes researching things like what kind of permits and licensing do I need? Researching all of the different things that you'll need for the business. And so I'm talking about all the things you have to buy for it or gather for it, right? And so from the big things to the small things. So if I am opening some kind of, restaurant, I'm going to need all of my kitchen stuff. So I'm going to need ovens and walk-ins and, those big things, but I'm going to also need smaller things like decor and, stuff for sterilizing, forks and spoons and all of that. And so you have the big things down to the mops and the buckets, right? And the napkins. And so you want to look for every single thing that you need. You want to think about how much labor do you need, and make a list of what all of that is going to cost you. And so this is a good way to start, and then start researching how much each one of those things cost. So this is where our research starts. Who's going to buy it? How often do they buy things like that? You want to look into permits and licensing, and then you want to start writing your business plan. And so your business plan is your outline and your guide of the steps to take, right? This is also going to act as a measurement or a measuring tool of, are we hitting the goals that we put in place? And if not, what do we need to do to fix that, right? Your business plan is also a living document. It's going to grow with your business. You want to check in on it every once in a while or switch it up every once in a while. And part of the reason for me that a business plan is so important, and even if you've already started your business and you never wrote a business plan, it's even after starting, it's a great place to sit down and write it, because it helps you think about things that you may not have thought about. And I can't tell you how many times I have talked to a client or a student. I'm like, okay, do you have a business plan? And they're like, yes. Okay, let me see it. They're like, it's right here. Well, we're going to need to write it down. And once they start writing it down, or even people who have existing businesses, once they start writing down the business plan and they start answering some of the questions within the business plan, they're like, oh my goodness, I never thought about this. I wish I would have done this in the beginning. It would have saved me so much time, so much money, so much effort. And so this is why business planning is great for you, but business plans can also be used for other things. So they can be used to land things like capital if you need a loan, or to land an investor, or to seek out a business partner, or even a key employee. So if you're looking to try and pull somebody from a different company, this is a great way to put it out of like, hey, I'm starting this business, check it out. This is what we're going to do. It's a good way of landing clients, new clients. So there's all sorts of different things that you can do with a strong business plan. So once you have your plan in place, you want to start gathering those resources. So you want to start actually purchasing all of the things that you need. You want to start hiring and training employees. So starting to gather all of those resources. If you need a loan, if you need an investor, start gathering that capital. And then, of course, you want to implement your plan of action. So this is our daily operations. This is how we're running the business, and we're following that business plan of what we outlined of how we're going to run the company, right? And then lastly, which to me is the best part of the business, is to harvest, right? So now we want to harvest our business venture. And it doesn't matter what type of business you're in, whether it's a for-profit or nonprofit business. At the end of the day, business is about money, right? We want to have money left over in our bank account at the end of the day. Now, we want that money for different reasons, of course. If I'm a nonprofit, I want more money so I can expand my nonprofit and help more people or more animals or more of the environment, whatever, my mission is. But at the end of the day, we want more money in our bank account. And as a for-profit business owner, our reasons for that money are, completely different too. Maybe I just want to line my pockets. Maybe I want to expand to a second location, so really what we do with that money doesn't really matter. Just like I said, at the end of the day, it's about having that money left over in the bank account. So how do we start our research? What exactly are we researching? Really, as you're focusing your research, you want to think about proving the fact that this business idea is feasible, sustainable, and profitable. Okay. And so we want to be able to find enough information that proves that this can be a sustainable and profitable business. All sorts of statistics have gone into people who start with a plan and have a business plan tend to be more successful than those who do not, right? Because it's going to decrease the risk. The more knowledge you have about your business and about your market, the more successful you can be. So you want to start with your target market. Who very, very specifically is going to buy your product? And this is where we look at who is most likely to purchase your product or service. One of the huge pitfalls that I also see, especially with a product that can be used by a lot of different people, is that people won't focus their target market well enough. And they'll say, my product's for everybody. I have bad news. Your target market and your marketing efforts, they are not for everyone, okay? You have to pick a specific audience. Because one, especially as a business startup, when you're talking about your target market, the whole reason why we want to narrow them down is because we want to be able to have them hear our marketing messages. We want to make sure that we have products and services that actually serve them, right? And it is impossible to create a product or service that is good for every single person. It is impossible to market to every single individual. And it's very costly to try. And as a startup business, we have limited funds, right? So this is why it's so important to know who that target customer is. And so you want to start with looking at who is most likely to buy this product or service. What traits do they share? So an easy way to start kind of narrowing down is looking at age, sex, location, income, education, right? So you're wanting to see where do they live? So if I'm starting, let's say like a coffee shop, I want to start doing research on who drinks coffee, how often, how much do they spend on coffee, what types of coffee do they drink? And if I'm in a physical location, I'm looking at 5 to 10 miles within my space, right? And if I'm in downtown Portland versus Coos Bay, I'm gonna have different people who live in my 5 to 10 mile radius, right? And so really looking at who are those individuals and how many of them exist. And then we start thinking about how do we reach them? Because again, if my target market is, 18 years old, I'm going to speak to them a lot differently than I'm going to speak to somebody who's 75 years old. I'm going to reach them in different areas, in different ways, right? So I may have more direct marketing with somebody who's 75 or older, or I may do more TikTok or streaming of things if I'm talking to somebody who's 18. How do you reach them? How do you communicate with them? What type of language do you use? And so it's very important to really figure out who that target market is. And one of the examples that I like to use for this to kind of drive it home is Charmin toilet paper, right? Okay. So in the United States, for some reason, we are obsessed with toilet paper. If COVID showed us anything, it's that we're obsessed with toilet paper, right? For some reason, we use a whole lot of it. So the average American uses 1 to 2 rolls of toilet paper in a week. And you'll notice if you watch Charmin commercials, it's Mama Bear and her family, right? And Mama Bear is always kind of the lead character, and it's always talking about cleanliness and that sort of thing. If everyone across the United States is just as obsessed with toilet paper, despite class or income or anything like that, ethnicity, we all use it the same, then why would they focus on moms, right? So thinking about that, you don't have to answer, but just thinking about it. The reason why they focused on moms as their target market is because in multi-person households, the woman is still doing 70% of the grocery shopping. So she's making the decisions on what type of toilet paper are we buying, right? Now, Charmin is also a little more expensive, right? It's got like the however many ply. So they're also looking at upper income, right? So this is where I like people to start kind of thinking, okay, it's a little bit of a better understanding. Does that kind of make sense of this is why we start researching? So once you have a pretty solid idea of who your market is, and if you don't know, then I'll tell you some ways to kind of search further on. I'm not 100% sure of who my target market is. As another example, I have a friend who's opening in downtown San Diego, opening an Ethiopian restaurant with culturally specific Ethiopian food. And there is a large immigrant population, specifically from Africa and Ethiopia. And so they figured that was who their target market was. But after doing research and really researching, they found that it was white, middle-aged women with high degrees, so highly educated, who travel. And that was actually their target customer. And a secondary market would be the immigrant. So this is why it's important to really focus in on that. The next part is going to be looking at the technical aspects. So what do you need to make the dream work? And so this is all of the as I mentioned before, any type of equipment or anything that you need. This is any licensing you need. This is think about any speed bumps that you might hit too. So is there government red tape that you have to overcome, right? You have to think about if you're creating some kind of new gadget or something, does the machinery even exist to be able to create what you're trying to put together? Because you may have to work on that first. So really thinking about the technical piece. I know somebody was mentioning CNC as their company. I've worked with clients where there's not a whole lot of people who are trained machinists in their area. And so if you're in a situation like that, how do you get employees and train them up and make sure that you have what you need in that area? So what are some of the technical things that you may have to get over? Then you want to start researching organizational. So who is on your team and what do they bring to the table? So if you already have people in mind of who's going to be on your management team or key players within your team, really think about what attributes do they have? What kind of experience and skills do they have? And are there any gaps that you need to fill? Is there anything that's missing? You also want to think about this from your side of things. What am I bringing to the table? What makes me the best person to lead this business, right? And this is also where we start thinking about what we call our bail team. So this is our banker. This is our accountant, our insurance agent, our lawyer, right? And I'm not saying that you need to have an accountant, full-time or a lawyer on retainer, but you want to have the phone number for a good one, right? So that you can check in with them on a regular basis and make sure that you're up to standard, right? When I say banker, and I know I've got a couple bankers that are on the call today, when I'm talking about bankers, you want to make your banker one of your best friends, right? You definitely want a really strong relationship with them for several reasons. One, they know everybody, right? They're a business banker. They know a whole bunch of businesses. And so you can chat with them about things business-wise. They may know somebody who can help you. The other thing is they're the ones who are going to go to bat for you when you're looking for a loan, right? And so you really want to make a really strong connection with your banker. With your accountants, you want them, even if you don't have one that's full-time, you want to have somebody check in on your books and make sure that everything is up to par and that you're doing things correctly. Because if you're not, and you're not paying your taxes correctly or doing your employment taxes correctly, you can get in a lot of hot water for that. So you just want to make sure that they're kind of checking it out. As far as insurance agents, depending on what type of business you're in, you may need lots of different types of insurance. And so this is having different insurances, even if it's just liability insurance, is the most economic way to protect your business and your assets, okay? And then again, lawyer, just to check in on things. Lastly, we're looking at the financials. So we want to start breaking down how much money can we make. So now we know how many people exist in our target market, how often they buy, how much they buy, and we can start figuring out how many can we steal from our competitors, right? And this is how we start figuring out our financials. So how much money can we make? And how much does it cost us to make that money? And so we can start breaking down those financials to see, can this be profitable? Okay, so this is where we start doing our research. So where do we find this information? As we're looking through, again, the goal here, when we start looking at all of these different research pieces, is to show that there's a want and a need for our business, and that there's a problem that we can solve, right? And that we can create a sustainable business, and that there's room for us in the industry, okay? So as an example, when I'm talking about room for us in the industry, if there are 37 coffee shops in my neighborhood, I probably don't want to open another coffee shop in my neighborhood, right? So we want to kind of search to see want and needs, room for us, and is it sustainable, okay? Some ways to kind of look at that is we can start at census. Census Business Builder is going to help us to figure out how many people exist that fit our criteria for a target market. So this will help us with age, sex, location, income. And so you can look at those there. There's also some really amazing resources under market research and competitive analysis. Under this link, the SBA has like 15 different research tools that you can use. Some of them might be industry specific. And so you can kind of go through and check that out. I highly recommend looking at your competition. Physically go there if you can. See who's shopping there. See what they have in inventory, how much they're selling it for, how many employees do they have, what's the vibe like. So really checking out your competition and looking at what they're doing well, so that they're in business for a reason. So you can copy some of that, what they're doing well, but also see what are they missing? What can you do better, right? How's their customer service? Is this where you can sneak in and, train your employees really well to have over the top customer service? So really check out your competition and what are they doing? What does the foot traffic look like? All of those sort of things. If your competition doesn't have a physical location, check out their website. Go in and see how easily navigatable it is. Again, what are they selling and for how much? And so really kind of checking them out. On social media can be a really amazing tool to use to see, one, what your target market is up to, and also you can ask them direct questions and put out polls and all sorts of things for free. Ask them what they want and what they need. If you're not sure who your target market is, you can ask things like, how do you like this product or service? What do you wish was different about products or services like this? Would you be willing to buy this type of product and service? How much would you be willing to spend, right? So you can ask and you can create your own research that way as well. So if you were looking to do a business to business type thing, so instead of looking at the individual, you would look at what type of businesses you want to focus on. How long have they been in business? How much income do they have? How many employees do they have? Is there a specific type of ownership that you're looking at? Are they located in a certain area? So you'll start to kind of differentiate them that way if you're doing business to business transactions. So one of the ways that you could maybe search this is women entrepreneurs on Facebook. Let's say that you want to focus in on women business owners. And so you could do it that way. Product reviews can really, really be one of your best friends. And the reason why is because people are insanely honest on reviews like Yelp and Google reviews. And so you can go in and you can see exactly what people like and what they don't like about a product or a business. And so this can give you a lot of information about how to tailor your products and services. Another way to do some research is through a NAICS code search. So this is the North American Industry Classification System. So this is your main source of revenue. So whatever your main source of revenue is your NAICS code. And so you can go in there and you can put in different keywords to pull up different NAICS. And this will show the industry. So it'll show who the key players are in the industry. So that's who your competition is. It'll show how much money they make. It'll give information on who the key suppliers are for that industry. So you can start thinking about who it is that you might want to work with as far as suppliers go. So this can give you a lot of information as well. As you are looking at things like getting your organization together, licensing, permits, you can find a lot of that information on the Oregon Secretary of State's office. If you happen to be have a business in Washington as well, they have a really great one too. But I can tell you the Oregon Secretary of State's online portal is amazing. I've worked with a lot of different states, and theirs is really, really great and really, really easy to navigate. So they have lots of excellent information on different business types or different industries, and it'll give you a full breakdown of what kind of licensing you need, what you need to file, all of those sorts of things are available there, which is wonderful. Sorry, just getting a quick drink in. You also really want to think really heavily about your name. You want to check your name at the USPTO, so the United States Patent and Trademark Office. You want to do a search there and at your county clerk's office to see if anyone else is using the name. I know a lot of times with small businesses, they don't have the funds up front to be able to trademark their business name, which is fine, but you also want to make sure that you don't want to infringe on somebody else's registered trademark. If someone else has a registered trademark, especially if it's been registered for at least 5 years, at that point, it's considered incontestable. And if you use their business name, they can sue you for damages. And so you want to make sure that you don't accidentally infringe upon somebody else's trademark. So do a little quick search there for sure. There's also international trademarks that you can search using this link. When you do your search at your county clerk's office, you can file for, here in Oregon, they call it an assumed business name. So this is, if you're starting a business and you're not using your legal name, then you'll need to have what's called an assumed business name. And you'll have to file that. So it would be, as an example, so my actual full name is Ashley Lambeth Christian. So if I wasn't opening Ashley Lambeth Christian Construction, I would need and I wanted to open LC Construction, I would need an assumed business name. So then it would be Ashley Lambeth Christian doing business as LC Construction. And so that's where the assumed business name comes in. You also want to start thinking about choosing a legal entity. So this is whether you want to be a sole proprietorship, whether you would like to be an LLC or a C Corp or a partnership or an S Corp or B Corp, however it is that you want to go about it, and whatever makes the most sense. There's no legal entity that is better than another. Overall, it just depends on what makes most sense for you and your business. And so this is why it says to consult a lawyer and an accountant, because each different type of legal entity or organizational structure that you pick has pros and cons, right? So as an example, so proprietorship, the pro is that there really isn't any paperwork that you have to file. You can just start doing business and you can hit the road. The downside is that there are huge liabilities in that, where if something goes awry, your personal assets can be on the line. So it's your house, your car, bank accounts, that sort of thing. Because in that situation, you and the business are legally considered the same thing. So if you have assets that you would like to protect, then maybe we move towards LLC or other incorporated entities. And so this is why it's important to kind of consult a lawyer and an accountant. You're also taxed differently and pay taxes differently depending on what type of legal entity that you choose. And so again, depending on your circumstance, this could change what makes the most sense for you and your business. You'll want to have a business license in the city that you are physically doing business in. And then you may need, again, depending on what type of business you're in, you may need different licensing or permits, depending. So as an example, I may need, if I'm a massage therapist and working out of my house, I may need a license to be a massage therapist. I had to have gone through courses and passed, my tests and all of that. But I also will probably need to have, oh goodness, I can't think of the name right now, but basically in-home business permits, because people are going to be coming and parking on my street, or there may be increased traffic. And so you'll want to get that approved as well. So depending on what industry you're in. And again, the Secretary of State's office has a list based on industry of what you will need license and permit wise. Okay, so just to go over this really quickly, needed to do business, you need a business license. You'll also want to get a seller's or reseller's permit. Even though we don't charge tax, if you're buying wholesale, they'll want to see this to show that you are indeed an actual business. So you'll want to apply for one anyway. You want to get a business bank account or at least a separate account. And you want to do this to make accounting easier. And so that you can separate those two. And especially if you're doing something like an LLC or incorporated or anything like that, you want to make sure to keep that money separate. And then you'll want to get insurance. Minimum, you want to have liability insurance. And if you have even one employee, you must legally have workers' comp here in the state of Oregon. If you do not, you can be fined for that. And so you want to make sure that you have workers' comp if you have even one employee. What you might need, depending on your situation, is to file an assumed business name. You might need an EIN if you have employees. So this is the IRS employer identification number. Even if you're going to stay a sole proprietorship, you can apply for an EIN if you don't want to use your social security number all the time. So this will also help there. If you have employees in Oregon, you will need to have a BIN number. So this allows you to pay employee state tax. You may need to file with the Secretary of State's office your business entity. So if you're deciding to become an LLC or incorporated in any way, you'll have to file that. And then you might need those home occupation or occupational permits, depending on what kind of business you're in. All right, so I know that I am kind of running low on time here, so I'm gonna kind of move through this next section pretty quickly. This is more like thinking ahead of what it is that you might want to do in the future. So one of the things that I mentioned at the beginning is that the SBA oversees a lot of the government contracting kind of guidelines. We also now oversee the certifications for women-owned small business, service-disabled, veteran-owned small business, as well as 8A businesses. And so thinking ahead, the government can be a really amazing client to have, right? Doing business with them can be really, really lucrative. And the reason why is the US government, my dog's probably going to bark here in just a second, so I apologize ahead of time. The US government actually is the largest purchaser of goods and services in the world. So they spend anywhere between $400 and $500 billion a year on contracting and purchasing alone. So there's lots of different opportunity there, and they buy everything you can possibly think of, right? So they buy things from pens and pencils and clothing and food, event space, consulting services, to tanks and trucks and all of those things too, right? So you can think about can my business do anything with the government? One of the things to also look at is, as I mentioned, the SBA has put those guidelines out of we want to hit 23% of all contracting dollars going to small businesses. We also have targeted acquisition goals as well within different sectors. And I am happy to say that right now government contracting is actually overshooting its small business goals. So right now I think we're sitting at over 27% of all contracting dollars are going to small businesses, which is really awesome. But you can see that one of our goals is to get 5% to women-owned small businesses. We're looking at small disadvantaged businesses, including 8A businesses, which I'll talk about here in just a second. Currently, we're trying to hit 11%, but we want to push that to 15% by 2025. Hub zone businesses and then service disabled veteran-owned small businesses is at 3%. So part of why, hold on, how do I go back here? Part of why this is really important is that if you fall into any of these categories, the reason why it's important to get certified is because we can do set-asides and also sole source. So we can set aside certain contracts for just women-owned small business or just service-disabled veteran-owned small businesses. And this makes the competition pool a lot smaller, right? They can also do sole sourcing. So if they know that, let's say that you're a service-disabled veteran and your business meets the scope of work and it's a contract that's under $250,000, they can reach out to you directly. And so you don't have to bid and compete. They can reach out to you directly for that. So this is why it can be so lucrative to get certified if you fall into one of these categories. Now 8A, this is where you can do that if you're a woman-owned small business. This is where you can do that if you're a veteran. Like I said, I'll send these links. 8A can get a little confusing for some. So ignore the and women part at the top. I'll explain that in a second. But so 8A is specifically for those who are socially and economically disadvantaged. And so in order to talk about what socially disadvantaged individuals are, these are individuals who are members of the following groups. You're presumed to be disadvantaged if you are a Black American, Hispanic, Native American, Alaska Natives, and Native Hawaiians, Asian Pacific Americans. And so basically, if you're part of the BIPOC community, it's presumed that you have been socially disadvantaged in some way. You'll also have to prove that there is an economic disadvantage as well. They recently changed the requirements there, but basically showing that you have had diminished access to capital or opportunities compared to others is how economically disadvantaged is shown. So, so you must fall into both categories. So if you are not part of the BIPOC community, but let's say that you are a woman or part of the LGBTQ or disabled, you may also be able to fall into that social disadvantage through a preponderance of evidence, right? And so you can write an essay describing these disadvantages with written corroboration from others. And so this is how you may be able to become qualified for that as well. So if you were passed over for projects or promotions or for access to capital, then this would be a way that you would be able to kind of establish that. And to go back, so 8A again has set aside contracts and sole source contracts. You have access to an SBA business opportunity specialist. Ours is Joe Smetic. He's an absolute angel and incredible. So really amazing resource there. It's a 9-year program that helps you through government contracting and growing. It gives you access to surplus government property. There's also mentorship programs and all sorts of stuff. So it's a really incredible program that can help. And then really quickly, just to go over access to capital, starting a small business. I don't know why a lot of people just assume that I want to start a small business. I'm just going to go to the bank and the bank is going to give me all the money I need, right? For some reason, this is a mindset that a lot of people have. But the truth is, when you look at this little graph here, most of the money is going to come from you and your friends and family, right? So this is how most small businesses start. Very, very few small businesses are starting with investors, traditional loans, or even SBA loans. And so really thinking about how you can scale your idea back. Maybe we start bootstrapping, we start really, really small and figuring out how we can work up to being able to actually qualify for a loan. And the reason why a lot of small businesses struggle is because they don't have what we call the 5 C's of credit ready and available. And actually it's 6 C's. So we'll talk about that as well. But the first thing that lenders are going to look at is, if you do need startup capital, is they're going to look at your capacity and your cash flow. So you haven't generated that yet. So they're going to look at your business plan, right? They're going to look at your financials. They're going to see whether your financials make sense, and whether they're consistent, right? Are they realistic? And so they're going to be looking at that cash flow. They may also look at your personal cash flow. So how much money do you have coming in? Would you be able to successfully support the loan payments on this? Would your business be able to successfully support the loan payments? And so they're looking at that cash flow. Another area they're looking at is collateral. Do you have any collateral or assets to put up to back this loan should it default? And so that could be house, cars, different types of machinery. And so what do you have to use as collateral? They're also going to be looking at your capital contribution. So this is where, how much money have you put into the business, right? How much, they call it skin in the game. How much skin in the game do you have? Because it's real easy, if I was a banker, for you to come to me and say, hey, LC, can I borrow $100,000? My first question is going to be, well, how much of your money is on the line? Because it's a lot easier to gamble with my money and to make risky decisions if you don't have anything to lose, right? And so they want to see how much money you have invested. And so if you've already been investing in your business, or if you're starting to, keep track of that, of how much you have invested in your business, or how much you intend to, right? They're looking at the conditions. So when we're talking about condition, this is conditions of the agreement of the loan. They're also looking at conditions of the environment or in that industry, right? Is there something like a giant pandemic happening that could make this really risky, right? So they're looking at all of those different environmental conditions, as well as the condition of the agreement. They're also looking at your character. Specifically, if we're talking about SBA loans, they're looking to see, have you ever defaulted on things that are federally backed loans, right? So student loans, do you pay your child support payments? Are you a felon? Those sorts of things. Do you pay your payments? So they're looking at all of those different character attributes. And then also looking at your credit. So one of the big things is make sure that you're checking your credit often. There's a whole bunch of free credit reports out there. Make sure that you're checking in on them. You want to know more about your credit than they do before you walk in, right? So checking that, making sure it's all accurate. If there are discrepancies, fixing them as soon as possible. So just making sure that you're up to date on your credit. So there are, as I mentioned in the beginning, there are SBA loans that are available. These are SBA guaranteed loans. So SBA only has one loan that they lend directly, and that's the economic injury disaster loan. And this is in place if there is some sort of disaster that occurs, right? Other than that, all of our programs go through third-party lenders. And they can be used to start your business, grow your business. They can be used for exporting your goods and services. The EIDL, as I mentioned, can be used to recover from disaster. And so basically it can be used for most business financing needs. So there's different types of loans for different things. You can learn more about SBA financing at sba.gov/financing. So with that, it's a lot of information. I know that I just kind of threw at you, but kind of rounding it all up, right? SBA is here to help you. That's, to do a round and just making sure that you have a lot of, I hope if you got one word out of today's presentation, that it's the word research. Lots and lots of research. There's lots of different supports out there. You have areas like the chamber to help you. You have all of the different SBA resource partners that are out there for you for no cost. I really shouldn't say that. It's not no cost. Your taxes paid for them already, right? So you use them, right? You already paid for them. So you have access to all those free resources. But with that, let me see.
Elsie, that was great. Thank you. Thank you for mentioning actually joining the chamber or talking to the chamber, because we do a lot of that frontline work with people. And we do tell them to go to the SBA and the SBDC. And one of the questions that came up was, has the SBA organized CMMC training to support small businesses? She said she's finding CMMC cybersecurity to be a requirement to work with government contracts.
I know that there's a huge push for it. I I've been working with, I know Mount Hood SBDC has a really good program, and I know it's something that we're going to be seeing more training coming up. I personally don't know a whole lot about it, to be honest with you, but I do know that SBDC Mount Hood is one of the cybersecurity experts that we have here in Oregon. So it'd be a good place to kind of tap into for information.
Yeah, we also have someone coming to speak about cybersecurity for business
Oh,
coming up soon. I don't know exactly what the date is. However, could they reach out to you to get that contact at Mount Hood? So
yeah.
maybe do we have your contact somewhere on the slide so that
Yes, it'll be the next one.
there it is. Excellent. So Lori, and anyone who has a question, get in touch with Elsie at ashley.lambeth@sba.gov or pdxhelp@sba.gov.
Mhm.
Oh, there's a new message. Hold on, a new message. Oh, it says thank you. She says thank you. You're welcome, Lori. Anyway, does anyone else have any questions for Elsie? Wow, it was so much to absorb and so well done. Thank you, Elsie. I appreciate that. Lots of great information. We will be posting this. If anyone has any further questions, you can always reach out to her, and certainly come here to the chamber. We're happy to help and provide to you contacts that might be able to help you with starting your business as well. So I'm going to stop our recording